always something that I do, but that's fine. So
let's get started.
It's not a big deal. So we just got through the holidays. We really wanted to do this recording together, and the timing just couldn't happen. And now's a good time as any to get this out there. People have credit cards piling up and all the stress left over from the holidays. And I think it's a maybe like a window where people don't think about their mental health because they're like, oh, I'm so great. I'm going to go to the gym every day and I'm going to set these unrealistic expectations for myself.
Like the resolutions and not to mention like the winter.
Yeah.
Like the winter is still hard for me.
Yeah. Same, girl.
I mean, like you and I have had several conversations where I'm just like, God, I'm struggling. Like the one day that the sun comes out, I'm like, oh my God, I feel so great. And then like the next day it's gloomy and icing. And I am like, I ain't leaving the house today.
Yeah.
Not happening.
People really underestimate the seasonal affective disorder a ton. And I think it's even harder for people like you and me who run our own business and you know, we don't have to answer to anybody but ourselves. And so if we're not living in our best self at that moment,
we let the bit,
it can really snowball. So you really have to be more in tune with what's going on. And I know that we're going to do a second episode on the Let Them because I'm super excited about that.
I know. I listened to it on the way here too.
I know.
Like, I'm on chapter 10. What chapter?
Oh my God, girl. Good job. Because you were just literally on 4 yesterday when we were talking, I thought. You were like, I'm on 4. And I'm like, I'm on 3.
Oh, no, I'm on 10. But every time I'm in
Girl,
the
I'm
car.
so behind you.
So, like, if Jackson's in the car, he takes over the radio. But, like, I let him DJ.
Yeah.
But, like, if I'm in the car by myself, like, it's like I had a listing appointment all the way on the west side yesterday. So, what is that, like 45 minutes there, 45 minutes back?
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's an hour and a half of Audible.
I love it. I listen to it. I don't know, when you listen to her, do you feel like you just feel like you're the same type of person?
Love her.
Same. I'm like, we are kindred spirits.
Yeah. Like, I love her voice. It's like soothing. I like her. She kind of has like mannerisms in the way that she says things that I'm like, okay, like she's my friend, you know, like we're cool.
I've listened to her episode before I ever listened to this book where she went to her daughter's house, and this is where some of the Let Them like even like compounded for her, and she like had a gummy. I was dying. Dead. She had a gummy and like red wine. I was like, this chick is hilarious.
Yeah. And she's just like very I don't even know how to describe it. Like the way that she reads or whatever, it's not like she's just reading straight from a book. I'm like, dude, she's like legit telling story. And I love when she does that.
I know.
So I won't spoil chapter 10 for you, but like,
please don't.
On the way here, it was definitely, it was funny because it was, you know, you're trying to like grow your podcast.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do like more social media stuff.
Yeah.
And she talks about like, comparing yourself to others and making it be
worst.
Like a torture versus a teacher moment. You're going to like chapter 10.
I will, because that is my biggest downfall, is always trying to compare myself to people who have maybe like better circumstances or.
She literally says, life is hard. Some people got dealt better cards. You can't control that.
Or you've like made choices and they cannot be undone.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in it. And all of this, you know, piles up and creates this mental health environment that we want to talk about today, and about, you know, what happened with you and when did you start noticing signs that you felt like you really needed help? And was it years before you even realized that you needed more help
than I was getting?
Yeah.
So, and it's like people have kind of asked like, well, what did happen? And I've never I'm very vocal about my mental health stuff now, like before I was not, but now I'm very vocal, and I'm almost like, I don't want to say proud of it, but I am like, fuck yeah. Like I was.
You own it, and it doesn't define you.
Exactly.
But it's a condition in your environment.
But there's such a stigma about it that it's like, you know what, if somebody wants to like look down on me or think less of me or whatever because I had it, let them, right?
Let them, queen, let them.
Yeah.
So seriously though, bringing this up, talking about ADHD and my very first, it gives me goosebumps, talking about it in my very first episode, one of my friends reached out to me and was like, I just want you to know that that piece on ADHD really hit home, because I feel like people judge me like I'm not as capable and I'm not as smart or something like that. And it has nothing to do with any of that. And I sent her the video about ADHD, about that brain neuro doctor or whatever, where he's like, no, ADHD doesn't mean you're not smart. You can have the brightest and smartest brain and have the highest IQ, that it is just your brain needs glasses. So when you take your ADHD medicine, it just literally helps you have glasses. Like I wear contacts, multifocal now, sad face.
The age. We're getting there.
Dang it. But the thing, it's you need to look at it that way. You need to take a lighter hand when you go to look at yourself and judge yourself about it.
Like, I think ADHD played like a lot into, like, I've never been diagnosed with ADHD, but like the more that I'm learning about mental health, like I definitely have some ADHD.
You're for sure ADHD.
Like like I am for sure. And
I'm not a doctor, but
yeah, like I'm not a doctor, and I know not everything I see on TikTok is true, but I like just some of the stuff that like the different types that they have. I'm like, yeah, I probably do have ADHD, and that like played a big factor into like the depression.
Yeah,
and I think like I probably always had it, and I just didn't know.
Yeah,
not
you don't just like, develop it.
But like as far as depression, like in let's see here, I would say in college, right? Like it wasn't bad. I was still, very social and things like that, but I napped a lot, and that's like a big sign of depression. Like I always wanted a nap.
It's also a sign of sleep apnea.
That could also just be really bad genetics too. Like, thank you, Mom. Like, she's the same. She will nap anywhere.
Dude, my girlfriend just texted me this morning. She got back to me like an hour and a half later, and she was like, "Sorry, I was napping." I was like, is this real life right now?
Yeah.
You're so lucky.
Like, I need to revolve my day. Like, right now I'm struggling because I'm like, oh my God, I had a rough night last night and I'm so tired. And I don't even like get to go home at like 5 and be done. Like, Jackson is wrestling. So I'm like, I just got to make it till 9. I just got to make it till 9 o'clock. And then I can like, whatever. But I think I always had it. And I think there was like a couple different like more serious times where it like took effect. So I would say like my first time ever actually getting on medication, I was probably in my like mid 20s, and I was living in Florida. And after college, I had a job as a sales rep, account manager, like territory manager or whatever. And I got laid off. And like in my mid 20s, that was like my first real career job out of college.
Yeah.
And so like I had never been fired before, like, or not like let go, like I was laid off,
just terminated, no matter how it happened.
Yeah, like no matter how it happened. And really like the world ended. Like I was so awful, and it was just like bad, right? And so like I think but that was like that was an easy one.
And that was before you had your
Jackson.
son.
Yeah, like that was an easy one.
That's probably like another compounding factor is like when you add kids into it, it really changes things. And then like me, add more kids and more kids and more kids and span it out over 30 years.
Right. Like you were almost done, girl. What? And then you were like, let's start over.
Anyways, back to you. Sorry. So you were in your 20s living in Florida. This is before Jax.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and that was like the easy one. You know what I mean? Like I got on like a very low dose of medication. I was fine. I was like,
but what made you feel like I need medication?
I was like, I could not get over it, if that makes sense. And this was a completely different type of depression than like the last.
Is it the kind like where you literally loop? Like you can't stop thinking about the same thing over and over and over and over and over.
Like I was
that's like an ADHD thing too. Like where you compulsively. So if I don't, so before now in therapy, before I was in, regular therapy, if something happened that I had no control over, that was wrong. To me, in my mind, it was wrong.
Yeah.
I literally could not get over it. Yeah. Like all day, all night, literally compulsively, like I was on a merry-go-round and I could not stop.
Think about it and you can't stop.
What could I have done? What could I have changed?
Exactly.
Why did this happen? Why me? Why not somebody else?
Yeah.
This is very fascinating. So, okay, that's score one. So we're also still seeing some tendencies to ADHD.
For ADHD, yes. And so that one was like, it wasn't a bad one, right? So like that was kind of an easy one. It was like a blurb. Like,
how did they decide what type of medication to put you on? Like, how does a doctor decide what medication you need based on what you're saying? Like, you went to the doctor and you're like, hey, I'm like compulsively thinking about this, or like, I'm super depressed, I can't get out of bed, or what was?
So I think like for me at that point when I got like laid off, I ended up moving back from Florida to Ohio. And I was like, fuck the corporate world. Like I was just that upset over it. And so like at the age of, actually, I guess this wasn't like mid 20s. This was late 20s. Cause like at the age of 28, I was like, I'm going to go to cosmetology school.
I love this.
And so I was like, I'm going to be like my own boss and I'm not going to work for like a corporate person and, whatever.
No one's going to control my
life. No one's going to control my life. Yeah. So like, I ain't going through this shit again. So I was like, I'm going to go to cosmetology school. And so it was like at that point, I went to the doctor and I was like, okay, I can't get over this. Like I was like just very, very upset. And my mom, who is like an RN, she's like, I just think that maybe it would be a good idea for you to like get on something just to kind of help you over the hump. Right.
So did she see anything in your childhood that like made her feel like you had tendencies towards depression or anything? Or this was just like you're 28 and maybe this will help you get over this?
I mean, think like getting laid off is like a traumatic experience. I mean, even though it's like a small blip in my career, it's still something that for me, it was like a big deal.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom saying, Stephanie, if this is the worst thing that ever happens to you in your life, you are one lucky girl.
Right.
But like when I look back at I don't think she noticed any signs of depression. And I really don't know if it was like necessarily depression or if I was just like the wild child bad seed, but I skipped a lot of school. Like I was very smart. I got very good grades. But
sitting still in school was really hard for you.
Oh, imagine that. Yeah.
Weird.
Imagine that. Like
weird.
So my senior year and like my people under me that like were the class under me at C&E probably are going to hate me because I am the reason that I ruined their PSEO, post-secondary education option, which basically means you could take college courses for high school and college credit. Well, my senior year, I was only at high school for I think like 2 periods a day. And then I was at UC Claremont.
Look at you.
See, I was smart.
Right.
I just fucking hated going to school.
Yeah.
And
I don't like sitting anywhere for any extended period of time. I go crazy.
Well, and like I remember like I would have to, because we were very rural, right? And so like we started super early. I remember I'd have to wake up at like 5:30
Where
or 6.
were you?
C&E.
Oh, right. Sorry, I went in one ear and out the other.
So it was like, oh my God. And I don't, it was just like a lot. Like I just hated it. And so I remember like, I'm so sorry. My senior year, I had 3 periods at UC Claremont, 2 at high school, and I had to sign in and sign out for each time I left and came. But they never fucking tracked it.
Really?
Oh, never tracked it.
Well, good for you.
Well, eventually I pissed off one of my teachers because I was skipping so much. I was skipping his class. So still had an A in his class, by the way. But I skipped so much of his class that he basically tried to like call me out. And so they sent me to the principal's office and they're like, Stephanie, and they couldn't prove it because I could just say like, well, I just didn't sign in that day. And they were like, well, but it looks like you've missed like 100 and something days of school so far. And I was like, well, I just didn't sign in. Like they couldn't prove it. Right.
Seriously, I love you.
I know. And so, but honestly, the most of it, I was just like, his class was the early class and I didn't want to go.
Shocking. She didn't want to get out of bed and she wants a nap.
Yeah. I was like, okay, I'm just not going to go today. And so I don't know what changes they did after, but I know that it affected the PSEO program that they did. And I'm sure there was like a new way to like monitor it. And I'm so sorry. Sorry, kids. I ruined it. But again, so it's like, okay, was I skipping class because I was like a badass and like just, like didn't want to do it? Or was I skipping class because I was like depressed and wanted to sleep in?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Like, I don't think I was depressed in high school. And I really don't.
You had a good spout. I mean, you went through high school, normal high school.
Most of college.
Jitters,
I mean, like,
whatever.
Yeah, like hormonal stuff always happens high school, college. Like, I'm sure every female like goes through some sort of like.
So where did you go to college?
Eastern Kentucky University, EKU, down in Richmond. Like, it's like maybe like 30 minutes past Lexington, which is awesome because I loved it. It was like it was like 2 hours away from home. So far enough that I didn't have to come home every weekend, but close enough that I could if I wanted to. And it was
then
like
was that
smaller.
when did you start real estate? After you're 28?
Oh, girl, we'll get there.
Okay, I was gonna say we haven't gone there yet,
No,
right?
we haven't
Okay.
gone there yet.
So you did sales in Florida. You got on some mild depression medicine that your mom said you should get on. Now, do you feel like you felt a difference? Do you feel like it helped you?
It helped me. Yeah. Like, I think that it did help me. And I also don't think that what I was going through was going to be like a long-term depression thing. I think it was just like, I got laid off. And whether you want to admit it or not, that can be traumatic. Do you know what I'm
Yeah,
so like,
because of like what age you are. Did
Yeah.
you stay on that specific medication though?
I did. And I think it was citalopram. I mean, I feel like I've tried so many, but I'm pretty sure that it was citalopram. That was like the first one
I've
that,
never heard of that. I did Wellbutrin in my 20s. I think that one's really good for ADHD people too.
yeah.
But I only did a short stint and it really helped me. I think I was really stuck in some postpartum depression and then like it just kind of like lingered for way too long.
So why did you get off of it?
Because I'm like really crunchy and so I don't like to take medicine, or at least I didn't like to take medicine
like
long
that.
term.
Yeah.
So I felt like it got me out of my hole. And I felt like I was in a good place and I was exercising all the time and I was, I was where I wanted to be and I got out of that hole. I felt like it did what I wanted it to do and I reached solid ground. And so then I got off of it and I really didn't feel like I needed it again until I had my fourth kid. And after adding yet a fourth kid to the mix, the ADHD thing was like, and honest to God, actually, I probably had depression from about 34 until 38, really a lot of depression and gained like 60 pounds, which is, I had never historically been overweight in my life. And to gain 60 pounds and to be so stressed out all the time, because Mel was talking about that stress factor.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that helps.
Well, and I think, I'm going to be honest, anybody over the age of 25, any girl, actually any person over the age of 25 has probably had some spout of depression. It may not be, or anxiety. It may not be like severe enough that they catch it but like life is fucking hard.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And so it's like, it's hard to like come out of it unscathed.
Yeah.
Like something, it just is life. Like it's a fact of life. And I feel like no matter, this was the course that my life took. And I think everybody has like a different course. And so like yours was like brought on very heavily by postpartum, right?
Yeah.
Mine.
I think it was like I couldn't ignore it anymore. I think as women, depending on the environment in which you were raised in, you're taught to mask. And if you show that you're having issues, then you're weak. And I was really raised not intentionally, like it's not a dig at my mom. She would take it that way, but that's literally not what it's intended to be. It's just like that generation and us is like, I got this. I'm cool. Like there's nothing wrong with me. My brothers used to sit there and try to pin all kinds of shit on me, but they didn't know come to find out I had complex PTSD and ADHD. And so I was constantly being judged by like my inner circle, which I was always defending myself against. And you didn't have, maybe you did have that with your siblings. I don't know.
So I was very much, and I still am, I'm like the black sheep of the family. Do you know what I mean? Like,
how many siblings do you have, Steff?
I have 2 sisters.
Oh, and that's so hard. Sisters are so
I know,
hard.
sisters are so mean. And we get along now.
Brothers are not any better when they're younger. They are like a total nightmare, girl. Let me just tell you.
Well, and there's like, we get along now, but like when we were growing up, there were multiple holes put in our doors because we would be like going at each other and like somebody would slam the door, and we're like, it was just catty. But like my oldest sister was like cheerleader and like very like popular, things like that. My middle sister was very quiet, very reserved, very like goody, super fucking smart. Like she's still so fucking smart.
Are you the baby?
I'm the baby.
Oh, I'm the oldest.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
That's a lot, trust me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
That's a lot to unpack.
That's another day, another time.
Yeah. Well, and so like I was a jock. I did a lot of sports, but I also skipped a lot of school.
So then it's like sports or like you're skipping school.
Yeah, basically. Like I did a lot of sports, skipped a lot of school, always wanted to do like the crazy haircuts.
Oh my God, I wish I've seen one.
Oh yeah. Like
I've totally seen, was it a faux hawk? I can't remember.
No, not in high school it wasn't.
No, the one that I saw.
Yes, when I was on the TV
Steff
show.
with the faux hawk when she was on a TV show.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Do not go Google that.
They will not.
This is a public service announcement not to go look that up. It is
They don't know how to look it up.
Yeah. I would rather tell my raw, unedited, like life story of depression than have anybody go see me on that show.
I'm so glad I saw you on that show though.
Oh my gosh.
It was something that I needed in my life. The cute pants are like puddled on. I didn't care about that. You were so good. You're such a natural. Oh. It was the pants on the ground puddling that got me.
My little 5'3". You know what I mean? Like I have short
you and me, shorties. We wear heels to compensate.
Yes, yes.
I didn't realize you were a little bit shorter than me.
Yeah.
I didn't know you're the same height as my daughter.
Thanks, Tiffany.
Not my 21, soon to be 21-year-old daughter.
Yeah, I'm the same height as like May. I had a friend in I had a friend when I lived in Miami, Florida, and her name was Janessa, and I fucking loved her. And she was like under 5 feet. I think she was like 4'9", and I was always like, "You're just like my little chicken nugget."
I'm gonna call you my little chicken nugget.
She's just so tiny and cute.
My little
she was
chicken nugget.
Fierce.
They usually are.
Yeah, like she was, but she would wear like she was this tiny little 4'9" person, and her heels would be like fucking stilettos with the platform under the toe, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know how you walk in those. Like that must be a balance thing for the 4'9" people. Like that they're just like
it's their cross to bear.
It's easy for us. Yeah, it's their cross to bear. Like so I was always the black sheep. That's what I was saying. I was always the black sheep.
But do you feel that way because you were, or someone made you feel that way? Like, what is this whole black sheep thing? I'm kind of, where does that come from? We like self-define ourselves.
Yeah. I was different. I was so different. I was the rebel. I was, like I grew up here in Claremont County, and I grew up like in C&E school district, and it's not always been like super accepting. It's a little bit more of like a conservative area. And I was always like free spirited, and I fly by the seat of my pants, and I don't judge anybody. And I'm not
judgy either.
Yeah. Like I fucking love like a person for a person.
Right.
And I think that the family that I grew up in is very, and I'm just going to say it because it's kind of like the elephant in the room that I'm dancing around because I want to be totally political. I want to be PC, right? Whenever I was in high school, like my high school was all white. Yeah. Like all white. We had no other ethnicity than white. Like it was crazy.
So close.
Right. I dated a black man. Can I say that? Is that PC? Like I don't even know. Totally but I did, I dated outside my race, and that was like a big no-no. And of course my family is accepting now, and they're like, they love my son, even though he's biracial. They don't give a fuck. Right. You know what I mean? Right. But like for me to introduce that to them was a shock. It was very different. And again, I love people for people. I don't care.
I'm the same way. I've always been that way.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with people that have come here from other cultures. Like I just interviewed my photographer. She's from Uzbekistan, and I love her. She's adorable. She's so sweet. She's so smart. And I feel like a lot of people overlook people like that, or they have historically. And it has been like my life passion to bring people together and find common ground and find what makes us all tick.
So you're like a peacemaker and a hippie at heart, right? Like,
did you see a picture of me tree hugging? You were making fun of my outfit. And I had the yin yang on my back. Yes, I'm a tree hugger. I will go hug a tree right now if I felt like I wanted to.
That's just it. Like, I was the different one in my family because I didn't always go by, and I didn't get into like a shit ton of trouble. Don't get me wrong. Like, for the most part, I was a pretty good kid. Like,
so you were dating a black man, as you said, in high school?
Yeah.
Okay, so because I definitely knew later, like when did you have Jackson?
Actually, Jackson's dad was my prom date in high school.
Okay, all right. So there was that connection, but then you went to Florida in between.
Right.
And then you came back.
I went to college. I went to Florida.
So you left him, came back to him. when you came back.
Yes. And so this is where like the second like bout of depression really hit me.
Right.
So like I had just kind of gotten over the whole like getting laid off thing. I moved back to Ohio. I was actually living in Fairfield at the time. And I was going to like the Paul Mitchell school. And I was doing all right. I was like living my life. Like
you were loving it. The creativity and freedom.
And I wouldn't say freedom, but definitely like the creativity. And honestly, like he came back into my life, and because we had kind of like stayed in contact as like friends. And so there was just like this instant connection there. And like I don't want to get into this on like
for sure
podcast, but let's just say there was a lot of bad in the relationship. That I was not like, you kind of ignore the red flags.
Oh, for sure. A lot of girls do. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally ignore the red flags. So fast forward, at this point, I'm 29. I am like 3/4 the way through cosmetology school.
Right.
And I get pregnant. And so I'm pregnant and I'm like, oh shit, I got to go back to corporate. I need benefits. I need my, 60 to 80K salary back. I need all of this stuff because this is what I'm supposed to do as a grown up. And I would say like 2 weeks after, maybe like 2 weeks after I found out I was pregnant, he bounced. And I think that's like, and I'm going to get like teary-eyed, that it was hard.
Oh, I know. Trust me.
Because when you are terrified.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think I could ever have kids. Like
Really?
Yeah. Like I have something else that my college friends know about and they cannot like say anything. But I didn't think I was going to have kids. So I kind of wrote it off like, whatever, I'm just not going to have kids. I'm just going to, do me my whole life. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And so I was terrified.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was scrambling because I'm like, I got to go back to corporate. I got to find a job. And because
he totally bounced.
He didn't even like break up with me. Like he just legit disappeared and was like moved in with another female.
Yeah, that would definitely create like or trigger some depression.
That was like my first real fuck, I'm in a hole.
Yeah.
And I like can't get out.
Yeah.
And so like when I look back at it, it was a mix of like feeling betrayed because he was somebody that I really like cared about. Yeah, I trusted.
Yeah.
Even though like I know there were red flags, it was whatever. And so then it was okay, I gotta get a job. All right, he's gone. I'm gonna be, not only am I now going to be a mom that I never thought I was gonna be, I'm gonna be a single fucking mom.
Right.
And
I'm just curious because every woman, goes through what are my options. I mean, did it ever cross your mind to like have an abortion?
No, because my thought process was, I'm old enough and I'm educated enough that I can take care of this kid. Will it be difficult or will it be challenging? Like, absolutely. Like, but I'm in a position that I can do this. And so like, not to mention, I never thought this was going to be possible. So like, what if I would have got an abortion and then I never
could have another child?
Exactly. So, but again, there I am, the black sheep of the family, right? So like,
girl, you can't be any more black sheep than me. I come from a religious household where it is shame to have sex before marriage, and who gets knocked up at 20, like right before my 21st birthday.
Oh yeah.
So the shame thing, well aware of. The black sheep, the shame.
Like it was just like added to
the only girl. I'm the only girl.
Oh
my God. You probably feel like the black sheep because you were one of 3 girls.
Well, I'm sure your brothers were like super not happy about like my sister's pregnant at 21 years old.
I don't think they gave a crap.
Yeah. Well, and so like, I think the big thing with me when I think about like the black sheep is like, okay, I have now gotten laid off from my job. I threw away a bachelor's degree because I decided I'm not going to use it anymore and I'm going to go to hair school. And then like, I'm obviously like dating a man of color. And then, oh shit, I'm pregnant by a man of color. And now I'm a fucking stereotype because he bailed. So, anyways, so that was like not to mention, like when you're pregnant, come on, like your fucking hormones are insane.
I know. So how do you handle that with like depression meds, like when you're
I did not handle it well.
Right.
And so like, I know that I stayed on my medicine.
Yeah. So you were allowed to stay on it.
And like, this is embarrassing, but I'm going to just like, I told myself I was going to be like really raw when I was talking about this. So, every Sunday, my sister would come over and force me to go to the grocery store and force me to take a shower. And you know what I mean? Like my sister would come over damn near every, like I was pregnant. And you know, most people were like, oh my God, I just love being pregnant. And they had all of these like,
Not me.
you know, like the gender reveal photos or like the, you know, like the pregnancy announcement that goes on social media and like the baby shower. And like, there's all of these things that people are excited for.
You just can't live in those shadows of these things that people narrate that are like not even just like real, but go back to sister came to help you.
Let's just assume it was like a family and they had planned to have this baby, right? They're excited and they are in celebration, even though there's like some fucking hormonal changes and there's stress and anxiety and all that. Like there's an excitement for this baby to come. And for me, like for 9 months, I lived in a hole.
Yeah.
And then you talk about postpartum, like, so like it started, that was the start of my really bad spiral.
How old was Jackson when you went into the big spiral and your mom had to come and try to help you that we're going to talk about here in a minute?
I guess he would have been 5 or 6, I think. 5 or 6.
Okay. So you made it like 5 years.
Well, I was hanging on for 5 years.
For a thread, by a thread.
By a thread. And so like.
So what are some of those warning signs that you can see now looking back, because hindsight's 2020, from that time when you got pregnant, you're having your second round of major depression. What are some of the things that you would caution someone who's having those same experiences to take it more seriously than you did and to get help sooner than waiting for 5 years?
So for me, I think like I look back and the biggest telltale sign for me, which is so gross, is I did not want to shower.
Yeah, that's a major sign.
It was an overwhelming task. And it sounds so simple, right? Like you get your ass in the shower for 10 minutes. But literally it was such an overwhelming task for me that I was like, I can't. I would look at like laundry. I still fucking do this. I would look at laundry and be like, oh my God, I fucking can't. I got to go back to bed. I would cancel plans. I like my best friend, Nikki. I wouldn't talk to her. Like, it's not that like she would call me and stuff like that, but it would be like very short conversations. Like I wasn't like talking to Nikki. I was like, I don't have the energy for this, so I'm going to ignore the call or keep it very short.
Did you isolate yourself?
Very much.
As much as you possibly could?
As much as I possibly could.
How were you working? Like, where were you working? What were you doing?
So I got a job as an account manager, which actually this was like the one positive thing is I had to go to an office, which I've always been like a work from home or a territory rep. So like I had to go to an office. Had I not had to force myself to go to an office, I think it would have been much worse.
Yeah.
But the good thing is like, that forced me out of the house every day. That forced me to socially interact. And so like people who were working with me, right, like during that time, they would have no idea. Like you mask it. You said it yourself. Like we are taught to mask. And I masked it.
Girl, I can tell you are a master masker.
Yes.
And I would just say that because I have this like superpower that people hate or they love. And it's also very hard for me to handle is that I can pick up on vibrations of people. So when I'm around them, even if they're not saying something, they're saying something.
Yeah.
And then I also pick up on patterns of behavior. So like, I just do. And I am so glad that we're friends. And I'm so glad that you trust me
well, and you've
to be in your life.
Yeah. Like, you know that if you don't hear from me for a day or two, it's like, okay, she's in her bubble.
Yeah.
Like, and then like you check on me and you try to like pull me out of the bubble. And I always appreciate that. And it's like, it's never like me trying to ignore somebody.
Right.
It's that like some days, and this is something I'm going to struggle with forever.
I know.
Some days you just don't have the mental capacity
and
the energy to interact. Like I know, and especially like me.
And people just don't understand that.
Yeah, people. So it's like, okay, I'm not ignoring you. Like I've literally reached my limit today. This is all that I can do.
Your social battery
my
is
social battery is done.
But what do you do when your social battery is done and you like what are your coping mechanisms to get out of the hole? Because I know that right now with a lack of health insurance, you're really struggling to have like therapy and things like that. And this is a lot of people in America right now, like without 100%. Health insurance. And they are sitting in your very shoes. And so, I mean, obviously you've made it a priority to keep on medication. And even though you don't have insurance, you're managing to do that somehow, which other people don't.
Out of pocket.
Right.
I just got out of pocket. Yeah. So like whenever I was in therapy and whenever I went to the Lender Center of Hope, like they've taught me stuff.
Okay.
And my therapist, like I loved her. She was phenomenal. And like her favorite thing to say was give yourself grace.
Yeah.
And so like when I'm in like my bubble for a day, like if it's gloomy outside or it's fucking 12 degrees, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I just don't want to adult today. Like give yourself some grace. Go take a fucking nap.
Yeah.
Stay in your pajamas all day. It's okay. Like, but as long as you know, okay, but tomorrow I'm going to try again.
Yeah.
Or the next day I'm going to do better. So like if I do that for a day or two, what I'll notice is like by the third day, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get myself ready today. And if I do my hair, my makeup, I like, even if I just like do it for like to record a TikTok video or something, you know what I mean? I don't nap. I am more like ready to leave the house. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go do this today, or I'm going to go do this today. And so it like pulls me out of the bubble. And so I always am like, the problem is it's such a cycle because whenever you get in the bubble, I call it the bubble. This is different than the hole that I was in, right? This is just like a bubble. And I'm like, you know what? Rather than beating myself up, give myself grace. I'm allowed to take a fucking day. I'm allowed.
Yeah. And you're doing it all by yourself. And from someone who was a single mom for many, many years by myself, you know, no one's filling your cup, babes. No one's sitting here going, how can I help you fill your cup? How can I help you get out of this depression or this sadness or this feeling alone? And you can feel alone while not being alone.
Oh, 100%.
And you can want to have communion and companionship with someone while you're also like, I don't really want to be around anybody. It's a really weird double-edged sword, and we all cope with it differently. You isolate. What I did when I was by myself and depressed and alone is I got into the habit of reaching out to everybody. So then I created this horrible habit where I'm always the one reaching out and no one ever reaches out to me. It's me always reaching out to them. I developed this really bad habit. And through the last 5 years, I've had to realize I have to pull myself back. Whereas you know how to pull yourself back. You have to force.
I love pulling myself back.
I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's like a protection mechanism for me. Like if I went to where you go, if I would come out, right? Because everyone handles depression so differently based on how we were raised, what we're forced to do, different coping mechanisms that we develop when we're young. And mine was like people pleaser. And I don't think that you adopted that type of coping mechanism, right?
I am definitely a people pleaser, which is part of like even like that's where I'm like, okay, give myself grace, right? Take a day because I do want to like please, like I'm such a people pleaser that
actually I can see that now that we've talked about a couple of your clients.
You can,
and I'm like, girl, cut them off.
But that's just it. It's like I feel like it could be a very vicious cycle of like beating yourself up because you're not a people pleaser. So it's like rather than do that, like let me go in my bubble for a minute. Let me just,
girl.
You know what I mean?
Did your therapist say your bubble was good? That's a good place to be?
Yeah. I mean, she was like, you're not going to have 100% perfect days. And so even though it's been like a few years since therapy, like I still very much remember a lot of what I learned at the Lender Center of Hope, which we're going to get to. Maybe not all of that, but like you have to understand. So like the pregnancy, like the postpartum, like all of this was like bad, right?
Right.
And then like I moved to Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri when my son was like a baby.
Oh, you did? So he was a baby when you were there.
He was a baby.
Oh.
Yeah.
How did you do that all by yourself?
My mom's there.
Oh, your mom is there.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so
your mom moved somewhere between the time where you came back home.
Mm-hmm. My parents got divorced, I think in like 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she moved and you were here still.
I was here, yes.
And then you moved.
And then I ended up moving to Missouri because I'm like, fuck, if I'm going to be a single mom, I need help.
You need to be near your mom.
Yeah, you got to have your mom.
Yeah.
So I moved, and that's where real estate came in because there's really like no industry in Lake of the Ozarks. Like it is very much like a tourist area.
I don't even know if I've ever heard of it.
If you've never been to Lake of the Ozarks, it is not like the freaking Netflix show. Because that was not even filmed at the fucking Ozarks, okay?
Right.
But it's very like it's like spring break for like retirees. Like I fucking love it. You boat up to like all the restaurants and all.
That's so funny.
But the thing is like when I was there, like I had, and I've always struggled with weight, but like after pregnancy, like holy fuck, you know what I mean? And depression, like holy fuck. And so like I'm at Lake of the Ozarks and I had gained a shit ton of weight at this point, and like it was hard to kind of find like a job. And so I went to talk to a real estate agent that my stepdad had a really good like friendship with. And she was like, do it. You know what I mean? And she's Sherry Stevens. I fucking love you. And she's like the best like Christian woman and just she's a very much like a motherly type of personality. And so like I got my license and I joined her team and it was great. And then it was like, okay, I'm not making my bills.
Right.
Because it's very much like a vacation home thing. And so like I know that there is money
like
to be
seasons,
made, but I was so new that I was like, I don't fucking know how to do this. And so I eventually was like, I want to go back home.
Yeah.
And I was open to Lexington, Kentucky because it was so close to where all my college friends are. And I was open to Cincinnati. Well, it just so happened I landed in Lexington. And I was still battling with depression. But like when I was in Missouri and I didn't have insurance after my postpartum, like during postpartum, my mom took me to like a health clinic there.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what medicine they gave me there. But I was able to get on some medicine and at least kind of bounce back. But I don't think I ever fully bounced back.
Right.
But again, you know, I was sleeping all day.
Yeah.
I wasn't, and part of like being there was in depression, you already isolate, but like I was there with like knowing nobody but my mom, and I fucking love you, Mom, but
can't be your only person.
Can't be my only person.
So how do you get up and move from there if you're not making that much money and move to Lexington? Like, how does that happen? Like, how do you have a place to live?
I got
how
a
do you
job.
have money?
Yeah, I got a job. I mean, and that's the one thing is like, okay, yeah, I have a degree. I can always fall back on the degree.
That's nice, yeah.
So I went back to corporate again. And so I go back.
I was corporate's bitch again.
And so I go back to corporate and I sign like a lease on a house and I'm renting a house and I'm in Lexington. And again, I'm doing okay. And then fucking COVID hit, which didn't really affect my depression as bad as I thought. Do you know what I mean? Like it definitely like played a toll in my mental health space. So the job I was at, again, fucking laid off.
Oh my God.
COVID.
Oh.
Yeah, COVID.
Were you triggered?
No, this time I was like, okay, well, if this is the worst thing that's going to happen, I'm all right.
I love it. Yay. See?
So definitely got through that. And then, and I know this is like a really long story and I don't like, I'm trying to like skip over the kind of not important parts to get where I was. But, like long story short, hooked up with this amazing friend of mine from college. Her name's Kimberly Clem. And, she was a realtor and I was like, she's fucking crushing it. You know what I mean? Like
during COVID.
Like what the fuck? So I talked to her and I was like, I'm going to get licensed. And she's going to, like, I was going to be on her team. So
was that here in Ohio or in Kentucky?
That was in Lexington, Kentucky. And even to this day, she's still like a phenomenal mentor. When I say she is like a boss, she is a fucking boss.
Love it.
But the problem is
daddy bosses.
The problem is with COVID and then the stress of like single mom, plus trying to do real estate, plus during this whole time, like when I moved back from Missouri, I tried to kind of like crack the door open for Jackson's dad.
Right.
Which was just like a disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. And it would be
Right.
like very short lived. It would be like, okay, well, he's in there. He's in the door for like a few weeks. And then he fucking disappears. And thank God Jackson was little enough that he didn't fucking know.
Remember.
He doesn't remember. But again, I like thought I would be okay in Lexington. And I was like, I really want to move home to Cincinnati. Like I want home. There's no place like home.
Yeah.
Maybe Florida. I would, yeah.
It's snowing in Florida.
Yeah, like it's 12 degrees outside today. I wouldn't mind Florida. But the thing is like there's like when I moved back here, I was like, oh, I'm going to have all this family support. My sisters were both maybe like 45 minutes away. My dad was in Lexington and he's like an hour and a half from here. And I had like my friends from like high school.
Yeah.
So I thought I was going to get this support system.
Yeah.
That never came.
Right.
And that's where I think it started.
So you moved from Lexington to here.
Mm-hmm.
And did you have a corporate job then?
What did I do? Oh, yeah, I did.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that allowed you to like come back over.
So literally real estate, corporate, real estate.
Is that when you set up in Fairfield?
That was when I was in hair school. So I actually moved to like Milford.
Oh, okay.
And I think this was like 2022. It could have been like late 2021. I'm not sure.
Oh, that was just like right around the corner. I was having Tori.
Isn't that fucking crazy?
Yeah,
and we didn't even know each other then.
I know.
How sad.
So crazy.
We could have like been there for each other. But I moved and I thought I was going to get the support system and it didn't happen. And I don't think it's through anybody's fault. You know what I mean? Like everybody has their own life and I get that.
Yeah.
And so I can't expect everybody to like fill in as baby daddy or grandparents or, you know, whatever. But I think that's when it started. Mm-hmm. Like I built another like circle of friends. I did build like another circle of friends and that was helpful because they were super supportive too.
Yeah.
And then, so, I wanted more money. Mm-hmm. I was doing real estate on the side at that point.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. But I was licensed in Northern Kentucky, so I never wanted to do the drive. Isn't that bad?
I am licensed in Northern Kentucky and Ohio, so I totally feel you. But like, I love going over there. I'm always like, I wish I came over here more often, you know?
See,
but I only go over there for work. But my parents live there now because I helped them get a house over there. My brother lives over there.
I'd be like, oh my God, I don't want to drive like 30 minutes.
That's how I feel when I go to like Northern Ohio. I'm like, I don't really want to drive to Westchester.
I don't want to go up there.
But it's forever away.
Something about, even like I had a listing appointment on the west side yesterday. I was like, oh my God, it's 40 minutes. But really, it's not a long drive. But I feel like I'm crossing the country. You know what I mean?
You know that's like an Ohio thing, right?
Oh, yeah. East side versus west side.
They say that the Ohio people are like so stupid about the way we travel. But 75 is legit horrible. I hate 75 with a passion.
Now that the bridge is closed, I literally did an entire 275 loop yesterday.
Yeah.
To get there was one way, to get home was another.
Yeah. Yep. Hilarious.
Well, and like you're either east side or you're west side. You can't be both.
No, you can't be both.
No.
But you can convert.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was a good one.
Because trust me, I've met plenty of convert. I'm like, whoa, they moved to the east side for you?
Right.
Or whoa, you moved to the west side.
Yeah, because they're set up so differently
it's so
and
weird.
it's so different.
It is like a different world.
It is. Like you don't feel like it just, I don't even know. It's just so different. Like
we'll have an off-camera conversation about what we feel about that because it is definitely just night and day. So
for sure. Okay, so sorry.
You're in Milford.
I get sidetracked. So anyways, I'm in Milford. I want more money. I go to another job, which let me just backtrack. This is where I started to see the decline because I was working at this company and it was a work from home and I wasn't fucking working.
Right.
Like I was logged onto my computer because if not, my little Teams thing would like turn yellow or red. And my boss was like a fucking psychopath and would like monitor it all day. But literally I would like sit at my desk and I would put Netflix on one monitor and my email on another.
Many people did that for real.
Like I wasn't working.
Right.
And I did what I had to do. It's not like I spent 8 hours not doing anything.
Right.
But I definitely wasn't really
You weren't invested.
I wasn't invested. I really wasn't working.
There was no satisfaction. So I think that's another thing that can like really fuel depression too. If you are sitting there doing something that doesn't bring you joy and you're unfulfilled in your personal life, there's nothing happening in your life to like refill your cup, to like give you, and I feel like people are stuck in this trap right now. It's like they are watching everybody's lives online and they think that that's what everybody's lives are like, and it's not.
Yeah. And I'm guilty of that.
Yeah. Like they think it's so glamorous. It's so wonderful all the time. They don't realize like even just like being a content creator and doing this, like realizing how much time goes into editing. It's kind of, I don't know how people are doing it. I mean, I'm sure it gets better and easier with time, but you have to have something that gives you passion. So that's kind of why I really started this, is so that I could have that passion. But you know, you're sitting at your desk, you don't love your job, your real estate's on the side,
paying the bills.
You're not having your sphere of your people that you want.
Yeah.
You know, you're not getting any support from a spouse. You can't just leave your kid and be like, bye, see you later. For a couple hours, I'm going to go by myself.
Yeah. Like I 100%.
Because you're at work when your kid's away from you. So then you're not being passionate at work.
Yeah.
And then you're overworked. Stephanie.
There was no time for
Which is why, and then when you're sleeping, you're not really making time for yourself because you're sleeping.
Yeah.
But then you're like, that's the time for me. So that's where it really is 2022 started to kind of go down.
Like I feel like the, you know, like the other ones were kind of triggered. I had the layoff and then like, oh shit, I'm about to be a single mom and I'm fucking pregnant. And
there's like,
you know, there was like a trigger. And this was almost like not out of the blue, especially now, because that you're saying that, I'm like, yeah, you're right. I literally was like I had my son, I love him, right? Like I had him.
Can be unsaid. It's for real.
Cannot be denied. But I was working a job that was super high stress with a boss that I didn't like I had a good salary, but it wasn't enough to really like pay the bills and live the life I wanted to live. And so I started interviewing for other jobs thinking this will be better. This will make it better. And at the same time, I was like dating this phenomenal guy, like probably one of the best guys I've ever dated. And like, we're still friends to this day. Like Jackson asks about him. He came to Jackson's playoff game. He bought Jackson like a new TV and like a drone for Christmas. And like,
oh my gosh.
Oh my God. He's literally just such an amazing person. And we broke up. And this wasn't like a trigger. Like I feel like the reason that we broke up was because I was already spiraling.
Yeah.
So like
you can't hold on to somebody when they're spiraling down.
Well, no. And like he would put in efforts to come to like stuff for me.
Oh.
But when it was him, I didn't leave the house. And then like for a while, like it was fine. Right. Yeah. And then when the spiral happened, it was like, I was always canceling on him.
Yeah.
I was shortening our conversations. I was avoiding the phone calls because I didn't have the like energy tank to fucking pour into anybody else.
Right.
And so eventually it was like, okay, we're going to break up because we just don't have time for each other.
Yeah.
And that was, I think like October 2022. And so that was where I could really start to see the spiral.
Because you didn't have anybody holding you accountable anymore.
No.
He was kind of holding you accountable to like being in society.
Correct.
He was like your one tether.
He's social. He's like, you know, like I want to go out and do stuff. And like, I just... like he would invite me to like go watch him play basketball in his little like league or whatever every Sunday. And every Sunday I was like, yeah, I'm going to go. And then Sunday would come and I would like physically like, fuck, I can't do it.
You're like, I'm not going.
And I'd be like, oh, I have a showing. And I would make up an excuse basically. And I feel terrible for that.
Right. It's just really, you have to give yourself grace.
Give myself grace.
Because it wasn't him, it was you, and you were struggling and you didn't know how to communicate that. And I think that's hard for the people around you who love you and care about you and want to help you but they don't know how. And all of that really starts with yourself. And, you know, you weren't there yet.
No.
And do you feel like, and we're going to get to Linda in a second here, but like, do you feel like where you are now that you know how to help yourself? Or do you still feel like...
As I said before, this is something that I will struggle with for the rest of my life.
Right.
And I fucking know that. And that's okay. Like I've learned to give myself grace and not be so hard on myself.
Doesn't make you any less of a human being.
Correct.
Do you think that you'll be able to have a relationship? Do you think a relationship will be fulfilling for you? Do you think that you can participate in a loving relationship?
I don't know. I think like I always like joke about like, yeah, girl, go find me
Right.
like that Love After Lockup,
Yeah.
I
tried to watch that show, girl. I was like, what in the hell is she watching? I couldn't even watch 5 minutes of it. I was like, this is so trash.
Like whoever I end up with is going to have to just kind of, and the great thing is like before when I was dating this like amazing man, I was not vocal. I was very quiet. And I've always been super quiet about depression. Like, unless you were and even my family, I masked it from them a lot. Unless you were like my closest friend.
Yeah.
You didn't know. Like, I didn't fucking broadcast it. And now I'm like screaming it from the rooftops because I want people to be like comfortable to say, I'm in a bubble today.
Yeah.
And I want people to be comfortable to say, I'm struggling and I'm struggling and I need help.
Yeah. Or, you want to give people the space that you hope that they can reciprocate to you.
Yeah.
Or understand where you're coming from or give you
stop
grace.
Masking it.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I want them to stop masking it because I feel like it made it worse.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And so like
you can ignore something all day long, but it's still going to be there.
Still there. And so that's part of like why I am so vocal about it now.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Because I didn't tell anybody before. And I feel like maybe had I communicated this to whoever I was with, right? Yeah. So like whoever I end up with, I'm going to be very vocal. Like, this is me.
Yeah.
There are days where I want to be by myself.
Yeah.
There are days that I don't want to talk. There are days that it is going to be hard for me to commit to any kind of plans that we had because I just ain't feeling it.
Yeah. You just got tapped out, especially with what we do for a living. It is a roller coaster, and roller coasters are really hard for people who have a hard time regulating.
Yeah.
So you have to have a lot of coping skills in there. And depending on your life experience, depending on what you've gone through, like there was lots of periods in my life where I got stuck in fight or flight for a long time.
Yeah.
And so, I didn't even know what that was. I just knew I was trapped in this place.
Is that part of like the PTSD?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I would get stuck there, and why I would never know. And did I even know I was living in that space? I didn't. I just knew I was like hyper vigilant all the time. I was super jumpy and easily triggered, and I wanted to isolate myself because the stimulus of people around me just made it worse. Like I just never could find a place where I felt safe.
Yeah.
And, it's a little different, but I feel like it's almost the same.
I mean, it kind of is, because basically what would happen, and what really still does happen now, except now I'm more able to be like, no, because of this. So what would happen is, let's just say like I would go, here's a great example. So remember I went to Tennessee.
Yeah.
Remember when I did that for Gatlinburg?
Yeah. Girl, every time I'm trying to get together with you to record or do anything, you're like, I got this trip. I'm like, what the shit?
Right?
Like, why are you in Florida? Anyways, so you're in Tennessee.
Well, I went to Tennessee and I shared a cabin with 2 other families. And then it was like, we had football. We had like, hanging out, people over. Like we were always with people. And so it was almost like when I came home, it was like an immediate crash. So like somehow I made it through the 4 or 5 days that I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like the second that I got home, I mean, it was like I had to like recharge for like a week. I was like, I ain't doing nothing. I don't want to reach out to anybody. Do not call me and ask me about how my trip was, because I don't have the energy to fucking tell you.
Yeah.
Like it was just, and that's okay.
Do you think that there's like any way that you could learn new patterns of behavior to like help you cope through those moments and get through them a little faster? Because like obviously you can't always just shut down for 5 days. Like you've got a job, and your job is demanding, and no one wants you to fake it, but like also,
you know what? I think it's the opposite. I think I need to do a better job at setting my own boundaries and my own limits so that I don't get to that point of like, oh my God,
girl.
I've just exhausted myself so much that now I can't function normally for a few days. Like I have to recharge.
But you committed to going on that trip. So how could you set boundaries on that trip?
I didn't have to go to the mountain coaster with everybody. I didn't have to go to dinner. I didn't have to go walk the strip with everybody else. There were so many things where I could have been like, you know what? I need some downtime, and I'm going to go to my room and just like chill for a little bit. And I didn't do that.
What about Jackson though? Like, what would you have done with him? Is that why you felt like you had to go?
I mean, that's honestly why, like, I just love my like football community so much, because I feel like I love their kids like they are mine, and they love my kid like he is theirs. And so I would have been like, I need some downtime. I'm overstimulated, basically, is what it is. I'm overstimulated.
Yeah.
Can he go with you? Here's some money. You don't got to pay for him. You know what I mean? But like
I'm in like single mom meltdown mode and I'm overstimulated. Can you help me? So you need to develop some like
tactics before that like crash
scripts
happens.
And things before your crash happens.
Yeah.
Where you can do self check-ins and say, okay, and then have like your safety with those people where you can say, hey, this is where I'm at right now. And I'm trying to be better about asking for help before I go into a bubble that causes me to be debilitated for 5 days.
Yeah.
Is there any way that you think you can help be my support during those times? And I'm not trying to be a burden and I won't be a burden, but like, if it's not a burden, do you mind being my person to help me through that and let them be there? I mean, I've had plenty of people be my saving grace. I mean, there's a lot of things that I have
a lot of baby daddies like fill in, you know what I mean? Like all the moms on the football team are essentially like my baby daddies. I mean, along with like so many like, like family members and things like that. Like I always say that because I mean, really it's like, okay, I need a large support group of like when I cannot pick up the baton. I need a large support group to pick up that baton for me, because that's essentially what your partner is supposed to do. And since I don't have that, it's like, okay, I rely heavily on a lot of people, and I know that. And thank God, like the other great thing is having Jackson made me realize like I fucking love kids. Like if I could go back, I'd probably have more kids because I love kids. And so they're always at my house. I always want them, like, if a kid comes to me and it's like, Stephanie, can I come over to your house? I'm like, yeah, like, come, you can stay for a few days. I don't care. I love having kids around. And, like one of Jackson's friends, his name's Miles. So we had gotten like Bengals tickets for, part of their Christmas present. And so his mom told him that she had a surprise and that like he was going somewhere and she wouldn't tell him. And he was like trying to guess. And this was a Christmas present. And he goes, am I going to Stephanie's? And I was like, oh, you think my house is going to be, coming to my house is a present. You know what I mean?
I love that.
And I love that. So it's like, yeah, I may lean on them a lot, but I also I always try to like take their kids too, because even if they aren't a single parent, life is fucking hard.
Yeah. I mean, trust me, you see me all the time saddled up with toddlers.
Right. Like, I don't know how you do
45, it. I know. I don't really know how I do it either.
Yeah.
And
somebody asked me that the other day. They're like, I don't know how you do it. And I'm like, I don't fucking know either.
I've literally said that too.
Yeah.
So you have your village, you have people who are helping you. But before you got to that point, your mom had to come and she had to help you because you were kind of in this, you broke up with this guy that wasn't a trigger, but you were already in the motions of it, like a downward spiral. We broke up
because the spiral was
happening.
So I get this new corporate job, right? And it's paying more money. So I'm like, oh, great. That's wonderful, right? However, I still wasn't working.
Yeah.
I was working. I was employed, but I was not working.
Right.
I would attend meetings and I would do the stuff I needed to do, but I definitely wasn't fucking working.
Right.
And so at this point, I had left Milford and moved into my house in Eastgate, which is where I'm now.
Okay.
And slowly but surely, I noticed I don't want to shower. I want to go back to bed all day. I don't want to get dressed. I don't want to leave the house. I'm cutting people off. It's progressively getting worse and worse to a point where at this point, I was getting a poor performance review. Like this was like March. This was March of 2023. I was getting poor performance reviews. I was getting put on a performance plan. I was going to get a demotion. They caught on that I was not fucking doing what I was supposed to do.
Right. Which
I had dug. There's the hole. I had dug myself so deep. I had neglected like essential cleaning duties of the house. I had neglected my job. I had neglected like staying on top of bills. So I had like all of this late fees and late credit cards like piling up. And it was almost like, you ever watch a movie where you're in like the room and the room starts spinning?
Yep.
I literally am just like, oh my God, how do I get the fuck out of this?
Yeah.
And I remember the day that they told me that I was getting like a demotion, right? They were like, we're going to move you positions. Like, we think you have potential. We don't want to let you go, but there's some struggle here. I remember I called my mom, and it wasn't that I was suicidal. It was very much that I understand why people commit suicide.
Yeah.
That's a scary fucking thought.
Yeah.
I knew, had I not had Jackson, and if it wasn't for him, I don't know what would have happened. Because I literally was like, I understand why people commit suicide, because it's fucking hard when you're in this hole and the room is spinning and how do I get out? And I called my mom, and she knew I was struggling, right? Like, and I did a whole like TikTok on how I tried like ketamine therapy, and like I tried to get out of the hole myself, and it just like wasn't, I just kept like getting
You needed
deeper.
more support.
I did. And so I called my mom, and she's 8 hours away, and I'm like, you need to come now. She packed up she was like, all right, I'm on my way. So she's like on her way here to Ohio. It's an 8-hour drive, and I am literally just sobbing in bed all day. I am like,
How are you handling your little one? How old is he at this point?
So he's like 6 at this point. I think he's 6. No. 2020, this would have been March 2023. So he would have been almost 7. Yeah.
Okay.
And when he's there, I hold it together where I'm not sobbing in bed, but I'm definitely on the couch watching TV. I'm definitely like
checked out.
Yeah. Like,
you're present, but you're checked out mentally.
Did he eat? Did he get bathed? Did he have clean clothes? Absolutely. But that was it. You know what I mean? Like,
when it came to you, nothing.
Then when it came to me, I did nothing for self-care. Nothing. And because I didn't have the energy.
Yeah.
So my mom gets here, and it's like 11 o'clock at night, and I'm in bed, and Jackson's sleeping in my bed with me. And I just remember I wake up and I run to the hallway, and I fucking like hug her, and I sobbed. Like I've never fucking sobbed before. It was fucking insane. And I sobbed like I've never sobbed before. And the whole way there, she is like, her and my oldest sister are trying to figure out like, all right, what the fuck do we do?
Right.
What do we do? Like, there's
like, what's going on with her? What do we do? We want to help her. Where do we take her?
Where do we
what
start?
Do you do?
Yeah. What do you do? And people are like, oh my God, reach out and get help. Reach out and get help. It is not that fucking easy. This mental health system is so fucking broken, which is another reason why I'm so public about my struggles. Yeah. This system is so fucking broken. My mom called the suicide hotline. Yeah. On her drive from Ohio to Missouri, or from Missouri to Ohio, because she was so worried about me, and trying to just get resources, get advice. And she will literally tell you it was a fucking joke. It was.
What did they tell you?
I don't even remember what she said, but like she was like, this is stuff that, like, she's an RN, so she's already like a little bit more advanced in the medical field, and what they were telling her was shit that like a fucking high schooler would tell her. Do you know what I mean? Like, she was like, I don't understand how this is a resource. And then my sister at the same time was trying to like get me to see a psychiatrist. Well, psychiatrists have a very long wait list a lot of times.
Yeah, right. They do.
And you needed a referral. Well, guess what? When you have depression, you don't exactly stay up on doctor's appointments. So when we called.
Right, you're canceling them.
I'm canceling them. I'm not going. I'm not showing up.
Right.
So she called my primary care doctor to get a referral for a psychiatrist. And my primary care doctor was like, hey, we haven't seen her in like a year. I can't give her a referral without seeing her. And by the way, our next appointment for that, it's going to be a few weeks. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, how? Like, I don't understand. Like,
right.
my mom is literally telling them, look, she does not need to go to like a psych ward. Like, it is not.
Right. That's where my next question was going. Like, they don't really want to take you there, because that's like really not a feel good environment.
And it's not like what I needed. Do you know what I mean? Like, I needed like therapeutic help, and like I needed to adjust my meds, and I needed to like figure this out. Thank God. So let's get to the Linder Center.
Yeah.
Because the system is broken.
Yeah.
And I recommend the Linder Center to everybody. And somebody referred that that center to my sister. My mom called on like a Thursday and she's like crying at this point because nobody knows what to do with me.
Right.
Like nobody knows.
Right.
She called and they said, can you get her in here within the next 2 hours? She drove me up. This was like a Thursday night. They let me talk to a social worker. The social worker gave me a referral. By Monday morning, I was starting the outpatient program.
Oh, wow.
And when I say it's not just like this group therapy session, right? Like they did a genetic testing on me to figure out like which medicines are going to work with my body.
Oh my God, I
Guess
love
what?
that.
What I was on was not it, girl.
No wonder.
Yeah, no wonder. They readjusted my meds. So I had like a psychiatrist on my case. I had group therapy sessions every day, like Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday, like 10 to 3 or something like that. And I had a social worker assigned to, like, whatever I fucking needed was there. And when I tell you like the timeline that they worked under with the urgency, any time somebody with mental health is going to try to get help, there is a big problem if there's that much barrier to entry.
Yeah.
Because they're going to
just going to stop.
They're going to fucking stop. They're going to give up. They're like, this is too hard. Life is already fucking hard.
Right. You're already literally in the hole.
Yeah.
You barely can reach the level that society is operating on. And then they want you to be functioning in society.
Where you have to fight and battle
you really
your way
need an advocate.
You need an advocate. And thank God my mother and my sister were my advocate because they got me into there. And it was like a long process. Like I think I was in there for like 10 days or 15 days. And
so
then
you were in there for 10 days?
Not in there. Like it was
like
outpatient.
You're going back every day for
I was
therapies
going back every day. I was going back like Monday through Friday. And I want to say it was 10 days, but I could be wrong. And it was a long process. It's not like I came out of there and I was like, hallelujah, like I'm good.
I'm cured.
No, like it was after that, they hooked me up with a therapist in their facility, which was phenomenal. Yeah. And then after that, there was a continuing monitoring of not just my medicine, but like my blood work. So like I was low on iron, I was low on vitamin D.
Oh yeah, which is a huge thing.
Yep. All of these things that help brain health, I didn't have.
Remember that one time where I said you got to put good things in your body, Stephanie, for your brain?
Yeah, and I'm like, look, honey, I'm just gonna have my wine and cigarette. Leave me alone. But the thing is like, you know, like it was a long process and it was a long tunnel to like climb out of.
Yeah.
But like eventually I got there and I owe everything to that fucking Lindner Center of Hope because I swear to God, like I cannot refer them enough to anybody because if it wasn't for them, I really don't know what would happen. Like my family doesn't have experience. Like, yeah, we all fucking have mental health stuff. It's genetic, right?
Right.
But they had never experienced this. So they didn't know what to do with me.
Right.
What were they going to do? So basically,
and then if you're in like a religious family, like people I know, we're going to pray it out of you. No, you're not.
Yeah,
dude, you're not.
We are just not that family.
We're going to exorcise the demons.
Right. So I think my mom and like I took short-term PTO while I was on short-term PTO. The company decided to lay me off.
Of course.
How fucked up is that, right?
Well, I mean, you should have been able to get onto FMLA, right?
That's what it was. I was on FMLA. And I got the two confused. So I was on FMLA, and while I was on FMLA,
I just didn't think they were allowed to lay you off while you're in FMLA.
This is why they were allowed, because they were new to Ohio. Like their sales distribution was new to Ohio. They decided that they were no longer going to pursue Ohio, so they pulled out. Because remember, I had only been there like 6 months.
Right.
Like, I wasn't there very long.
Right.
So they pulled out. So there was no longer a position for me.
Oh, okay.
So basically, my mom stayed with me for, I don't know, maybe 2 months, 3 months, which like was so great, but also very hard because I'm, you know, a 30 at this point, like what, 37, 36-year-old, like anyways, she stayed with me until I was like feeling well enough. And then I decided to get my real estate license back active. And I was like, you know what? I'm feeling better. I am really fucking done with corporate. Cause what is that? My third layoff.
Right.
I'm really fucking done with corporate. And I was like, right now, this is so bad. Like, don't turn me into anybody. But I was collecting unemployment.
Yeah.
And I had a severance. And I had like food stamps and I had Medicaid.
Yeah,
and I was like, you know what?
You paid into it. I mean, you gotta do it.
Well, I'm going to take this and I'm going to go balls to the walls on real estate. And that's exactly what I fucking did. And that's exactly what I'm doing to this day. I'm going to keep doing what I have to do because me doing real estate, yeah, it's emotional, right? It's a roller coaster. But at the same time, I don't have I have stress, but it's not a high pressure of somebody like over your shoulder.
Right.
If I need to take a day, I can take a fucking day.
Right.
Like, it's okay.
Yeah. You can take care of your mental health doing this for you. It works. And this is what allows you to tend to you. And I will say honestly, that my whole relationship with corporate America really ended in 18 as well. It was one of those looping situations where I was telling you because it was based on lies, which I am not a liar. I will tell you the truth all day long. And it was hurtful. It was really, really, really bad for me, but also it was really, really good for me. It was what I needed because I needed it. I was able to get control back of my life. I didn't have to prove myself to someone.
And think about it. It's like even though real estate is like, it is stressful and it is high, like fast paced and like you have to have high energy. And what's really great is I can do that. So like I can schedule some showings and have super high energy for like 3 or 4 hours and like connect with people, which I still love to connect. I love that. But then I get to go home and I get to shut my door and I don't have to check emails. I don't have to answer to anybody. I don't have to ignore my mental health and self-care because I am my boss.
Yep.
And it's the same for you.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry that like that's ever going to happen again. You don't have to get stuck in this like cycle because let's be honest, like if we don't want to work with somebody, we can be like, no, thanks.
I'm going to refer you to somebody else.
Yeah. Like, no, thank you.
Yeah. So and that's good for us. I mean, and there's just so many, not everyone has the ability to do what we do. And it's not because they can't. It's just because it doesn't bring them peace. It doesn't make them feel good. Like there's just certain people who cannot live the uncertainty.
Yeah. And it's especially with like depression, the uncertainty is hard.
Yeah.
And it creates extra pressure. But at the same time, the joy that I find in doing what I do.
Yeah.
And I also feel like I've connected with so many like people, right? So like I meet new clients all the time.
Keeps it interesting.
Well, it keeps it interesting and it gives me a platform to talk about what I went through. Like I have a client that texted me a few months ago and was like, I just wanted to thank you for sharing your story with me because she was struggling. And she's like, I just want to thank you because you shared your story and told me about the Linder Center of Hope. And I just completed their outpatient program.
Oh, see, that's what I'm talking about. That's like me too. I do the same thing, like where I just want to help people. We just want to help people and we want to be of service.
Yes.
And at the same time, do our job.
Yeah.
I've been in real estate since I was 19 years old. My mom was a realtor. I was in title. I've been in mortgage.
Think of all the people you've touched.
Yeah. It's a blessing.
It is. It's a blessing.
Yeah.
And like, people can maybe say like, why is she doing like a podcast?
They do, right? They're like, why are you doing that? I'm like, because it gives me joy. To get to know people on a more intimate level, to get to know you, to get to hear your story, to identify, to have moments where we connect like humans over real challenging life issues. It's meaningful to me. And you don't always get to have those meaningful experiences with people unless sometimes you have to create them.
It helps fill your cup.
Yeah.
Right? Like it gives you like a greater purpose.
Yeah.
Well, and like so like right now I'm doing this like 60-day challenge where like my goal is I'm going to post a video every single day. And I'm sure these people are probably like, oh my God, here comes Stephanie with another video or another reel. And like the reality is that's okay. And I don't want to always talk about real estate, but like 2 things that are like very prominent. Well, 3 things that are prominent in my life: real estate, mental health, and single parenthood.
Yeah.
And so I feel like if I can connect with like a broader audience on those 3 topics, like that brings me joy. That fills my cup. And so like the 60-day challenge is a point of holding yourself accountable.
Yeah. Showing up, being consistent. And honestly, this is like,
I will do my makeup. If I know I'm going to record a video for the next 60 days, bitch, I'm not getting on TikTok without my fucking eyebrows. Okay.
Girl.
So
yeah, when you were like, let's record today, I was like, okay, I'm glad I put on just the minimal amount of makeup and I don't feel like a complete horse ass since I just got over COVID.
Yeah.
But, here I am and then I have to run off to a doctor's appointment. But
I mean, I'm like 60 days straight. I know that my eyebrows are going to be fucking on for 60 days. And so that getting ready is like another coping mechanism.
Yeah, it is. It's you're training your body. Mm-hmm. That's actually really good for you because it trains your body to do to be in that habit so that like even if you start to struggle emotionally that you'll be able to still do the self-care.
It's like who knew getting ready was like self-care when you feel
girl
like
I know trust me I know
it's like even the little things like moisturize lotion.
I'm the worst about like a skincare routine. I'm gonna have this amazing girl on who is an esthetician, and I love her. And I met her when I was doing a stint in jewelry, like when I was like in the jewelry world. And she came in for like her jewelry, and I love her. And she's local. She's up near Fairfield, Winton, whatever. And she's gonna come in and record with me in February.
Oh,
and
she also, like all the tips.
Yes, and she did. So she has this whole skincare routine. So we're gonna do a little blip of the skincare. A little blip on how she spent the last 3 years dedicating time in the gym to herself and her wellness journey. I'm so excited. And this is why I'm going to do these things because you can learn something from every person out there, but she doesn't, she has a huge following because everybody
has a story.
Right.
Everybody has a different deck of cards and everybody's life is hard. And so it's like, okay, like what hand were you dealt? Because I want to hear like, what hand are you dealt with? How did you like turn it into a positive? Because I feel like that's going to connect with even more people. Do you know, like you never know who was dealt the exact same hand that you have and what they did differently or what they wish they would have done or whatever. And one other thing. So like whenever you talk to the esthetician, can you just like let her know that you have a friend that gets Botox in a basement?
She has her own, like her basement is her business. Like you can go around the house. And I don't know if she does Botox. She does a lot of like the hydrofacials. And like, I don't know if most of her stuff is like more holistic. I have no idea. I'll learn about that, but just like Botox in a basement. Oh my God. Totally one of my other new friends, real quick. Her name's Ray. She has a business. She posted, are you in the girls group?
One of my other new friends. Like how many new friends are you?
I'm always making new friends. I make friends through my other friends. And she just posted, are you in the girls' night out
No, because you remember you said you can't add me and I can't find it.
I think I added you. I can't get on my camera. But anyways, we're going to wrap this up and then I'm going to tell you real quick about her. But she has, she does like permanent eye makeup and she does tattoos and she's having an event, Galentine's Day on the 15th, I think.
Okay.
And she just put it in our group and we can go and then they're going to do a raffle. And
I'm going to have to like look at her website. Because permanent makeup scares me, even though I love makeup.
Girl. Yeah. I'm not trying to do that, but she has like all these other things, Botox packages and things like that. And I'm not a Botox queen. I'm filler. I think I'm more into filler. We talked about filler.
Both. I want to get lips, Botox, all of it. I'm like self-care, baby. Like give myself some grace and pump these bad boys up. Okay.
I need to go get some lips. I need somebody who's going to help me get good lips that aren't like.
Yeah, it's all self-image. That's what self-care is. No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
totally kidding.
Thanks for coming and sharing today. And I love you.
Thank you so much, girl. Yes. All right, love you too.
Love you.
All right.